Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away and stood up for victims and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor, like the steam fitters, the plumbers, and ironworkers. Everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute, he plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage theft, and deadly working conditions. She's always been a partner to unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. You can visit www.diana4da.com. This is paid for by Diana Florence for Manhattan DA.
This is Cop Talk. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk, brought to you by Diana Florence for Manhattan DA. Vote for the independent Diana Florence for Manhattan DA. She'll prosecute crime and protect families, not criminals. Vote for Diana Florence for DA on the safer Manhattan line. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Congressional Senator for down in Congress, District 11, I believe it is, Nicole Malliotakis. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
I'm here with my co-host, the Captain Ed Mamet. Go ahead, Ed.
Hi, Nicole. It's good to see you again, even if it's not in person.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. We know you're very busy down in Washington, and once again, thank you. Nicole, can you give our audience your background, where you grew up, where you're from, where you went to school?
Sure. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I was born in Manhattan, raised in Staten Island. I've been very proud to represent my community in Congress for the last 5 years. Before that, I was in the New York State Legislature for 10 years. I've always represented Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn. I also have a history of working in the nonprofit sector, the private sector, as well as in the public sector as a liaison for Governor George Pataki. So I'm very proud of my heritage as well. I'm Greek and Cuban. My mother fled communism in 1959, the Castro regime, and my father's from Greece. And so, I'm very proud in one generation to be able to be a member of the House of Representatives, and it's the American dream that I fight to preserve each and every day.
If you were not born in Staten Island, you were not a native, right?
Well, I consider myself an honorary native because I've been in Staten Island since I was 2 years old.
Well, I lived on Staten Island for 7 years, but I remember them telling me, well, if you weren't born here, you're not a native, you're just a resident. So they were very provincial.
Well, yeah, but things have changed very much on Staten Island, and we're home to so many different ethnic groups of immigrants from all over the world, and obviously from other boroughs as well. And everyone knows that a lot of people from Brooklyn always go to Staten Island before they go to Florida or New Jersey. But it's definitely more diverse than when I first got elected, and we're very proud of the diversity that we have here. In fact, people ask me, what is the thing I love most about my district? It's that I could eat anywhere in the world in my 15 miles because we have every ethnic group represented in terms of cuisine, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since I lived there. Did you have any special schooling before you went to Congress?
Well, I have Well, I have an MBA. I graduated from Seton Hall University. I have an MBA from Wagner College. So my background's always been more in the management, marketing, business side. It comes in handy when you're dealing with budgets in particular. But I've been able to apply some of the things that I've learned in school. But I think a lot of what we work on each and every day are so many different issues. There's no one can fully be prepared for this job because you're expected to be a subject matter expert in every single area of life, whether it's healthcare or education or public safety. We rely heavily on organizations and constituents to teach us about the practical application of the laws that we're passing. Sometimes it may be a good idea, but in practice, it doesn't work. And a perfect example of this was the bail law, right, that the New York State legislature passed. I think they had good intentions, but what they ended up doing was releasing criminals over and over back onto the streets. And it's a ludicrous measure. So I think at the end of the day, it's really important for us to understand the impact of the laws that we're passing, and we rely on subject matter experts in those fields. And so one of the things, interestingly, about the bail law was that the state legislature never consulted anyone in law enforcement about what this would do to the streets of New York City. And I just use this as an example because obviously you're a cops talk show, so I thought that might be of interest. But we see it each and every day where politicians think they know better than the industry experts, and they don't. And so I think what's nice about Congress is you have people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different regions, with different experience. And you'll have a doctor, and you'll have a pilot, and you'll have maybe an army nurse, and you'll have like just different people, educator, and it really together. That's what the founders envisioned, right? People that would come from different walks of life and different professions to govern the country, but it was supposed to be temporary. You weren't supposed to stay there for 40 years like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. You were supposed to come, you make your contributions, and then you go back to your field. And so that's why I support term limits for members of Congress.
Well, there's no doubt that the bail law has affected the crime situation in New York City, and it was predicted that would happen. But the question I have is, when were you first elected to Congress?
I came in 2020. I defeated a Democrat incumbent, Max Rose. So I've been there for 5 years, which there's 2-year terms. This is my third term.
It's a 2-year term, right?
Yes.
That's a lot of work, trying to get reelected every 2 years.
Well, I find that if you just do your job and you listen to your constituents and you vote the way your district wants you to vote, that you have actually an easier time running for reelection, and you don't need as many resources because people know the good work that you're doing. And I've been fortunate where my margin of victory has always increased over the 3 terms that I was there. So we've only done better, and I think it's because that I'm actually listening to my constituents and vote accordingly.
What, if any, bills of note have you introduced that were passed?
Well, we have a couple of measures. One of the first achievements was a bill related to 9/11. And for 20 years, 9/11 families, the widows and the children, were not receiving the proper compensation for their proper compensation from the states of sponsors of state terrorism victims fund. That's the name of the proper name of the fund. And they had been fighting for so long to get these payments that they had been owed. And I stepped in, I drafted legislation, and I had to work with Jerry Nadler across the aisle because they were in control at the time, the Democrats, but we got it done. And I was very proud to be able to accomplish that in just my first term. One of the other things that I'm most proud of came about this year when we were able to pass the senior citizen tax credit. Basically, this is a bonus deduction. It's not a tax credit. It's actually a bonus deduction that when seniors file their income taxes in 2026 for the 2025 year, they will be able to get a significant deduction that when you calculate it for the majority of seniors, like 88% of seniors across the country, will erase their tax liability on Social Security. So this was sort of fulfilling the president's promise of no tax on Social Security, which was an idea that I brought to him during the campaign. And we were able to do it in this way by giving that extra deduction to offset what they would be paying otherwise in Social Security taxes. So they'll get a refund for that money when they file their taxes in 2026. That was a big one for me, because my father used to always ask, well, why do we have to pay taxes on our Social Security? And he had made a big point. And as a member of the House Ways and Means Committee that deals with all taxes, that was one of the biggest things that I had been championing over the last 2 years, and we finally got that done. The other thing was the restoration of the SALT deduction, which is critical for the people here in New York, our middle-class families with incomes of less than $500,000. They will now have a $40,000 SALT deduction to help them, because we have high state and city income taxes as well as property taxes. So those, I would say, are probably the three biggest things that I'm most proud of.
Well, I side with your father because I was in that situation, and I really thank you, because it bugged me for years. Why do I have to pay tax on Social Security when I've already paid other taxes? So I thank you very much for that.
Yeah, 50 million Americans, 50 million seniors across the country are going to benefit from that. It's huge, and it's going to be, I think, a very big help to a lot of those seniors, because a lot of the seniors are obviously those who live in their homes. They may have paid off their mortgage, but they're dealing with high property taxes. So they'll benefit from both SALT and from the senior deduction. So I think in the tax relief package that we put forward, which is otherwise known as the Big Beautiful Bill, and this was a really truly about working class Americans, senior citizens, middle class families. In that package, I think the seniors really end up being the biggest winners of all.
All right. Kev?
Yeah, Nicole, getting back to 9/11, I'm a first responder just like Ed. I was working 9/11. And, today's day and age, the kids in colleges and grammar school and high school, they don't teach them about 9/11, what really happened. And as years go on, I feel people forget. Maybe we should make it a day of remembrance, and maybe have schools closed for that day to remind the younger generation, like my children, know about 9/11 because of me and their mom. Unfortunately, there's many kids out there who don't know because their parents weren't first responders or aren't first responders, and they're unaware of really what happened on 9/11. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we actually have legislation to make it a National Day of Remembrance. So we would honor our fallen. Schools would be closed on that day. We also have passed a resolution calling on states to implement it as part of their curriculum. As you know, the states are the ones responsible for developing the curriculums. And so we think that's incredibly important. But on this point, I want to bring up something important that also happened the other day. There was the possibility that New York would lose $187 million in counterterrorism funding, and $100 million of that would go to the NYPD. Everything from equipment to intelligence to the K-9 unit, all sorts of things that are critically important for our bomb squads was at risk. And this was all because the Department of Homeland Security had changed the formula of how they distributed counterterrorism funds. And when we found out about this right away, I called President Trump and asked him, and I know the president loves the NYPD, loves the FDNY, they love him, and I knew this would be something that he would want to stop. And to his credit, within 48 hours, he got involved, he intervened, and he stopped this funding loss for New York that would have been devastating and very dangerous. And so I want to thank President Trump for doing that. But I think it also brings up a point that these agencies, you have some bureaucrats in these agencies coming up with these formulas. And here, the number one terror target in the country still, New York City, would have lost significant amount of money to other municipalities around the country that are of lesser threat. And so it is really a reminder that, we need these agencies to be more thoughtful when making these decisions. But I think that was just really important to note, because we can never, number one, we need to keep our police fully funded. I mean, they go through such a hard time because of all these crazy laws in the city and the state. The city council voted to defund them by $1 billion a couple of years ago. They're retiring our cops and they're not being replaced. So it's the same thing as defunding. If they're not calling it defunding the police anymore because Democrats found out it was very unpopular. What they're doing now is driving them out or letting them retire, and then they're not replacing them, which is really the same thing. We are down 7,000 cops from where we were on September 11, 2001. And that's why this, mayor's race that's coming up is critical, because, Curtis Lee wants more cops. Andrew Cuomo said he'll hire 5,000 more cops. But Zohran Mamdani says that NYPD is the greatest threat to public safety. There should be no jails in society. And he led the defund the police movement. So, that's something that every New Yorker needs to think about.
I love when they say, we're going to hire 5,000 more cops. Well, how are they going to do that? Really, how? I mean, I believe we're trying to do that now. You can't have guys and girls coming on a job when they're being underpaid. They're not being treated properly. And the politicians, unfortunately, overall, unlike yourself, does not support the police.
And not only that, Ray Kelly, a former great police commissioner, just the other day wrote, there was an article in the Post, that if Mamdani becomes the mayor, the police are going to flee. People won't join. Yeah. People will retire. I mean, it sounds like Escape from New York.
And that is, to my point. He's going to drive them out and not replace them. And if you want cops, you got to make the job palatable, desirable, workable. And they've handcuffed our police. They've made it, you don't have much pride in a job where you make an arrest and the perp is out on the street before you even finish your shift. When you're being demonized by the review board, and you're not being treated fairly, there's going to be a lot of apathy within the department. And so, obviously the leadership matters, and Eric Adams was certainly better when it came to police than Bill de Blasio, but obviously there's so much more that could be done to untie the hands of our cops and let them do their job. Sadly, in many ways, the mayor has his hands tied by the radical city council and the radical state legislature. So there is a major problem here. There is a major problem, and the only reason we're seeing crime decrease a little right now is because President Trump was elected and he's deporting the criminal gangs, the drug traffickers, and the illegal immigrants who had been creating havoc in our city. And so we don't see those same stories that we did before he took office, where they would have these criminal rings doing robberies, doing all sorts of illegal activity. It has calmed down a lot. And that is only because President Trump was elected and he's deported those criminals. It has nothing to do with anything that our city or state politicians have done.
Yeah, but his program has created a new problem. ICE is under attack. I mean, in certain cities, it's almost like a war zone.
Yeah, look, I think they have a very difficult job. I would like for them to focus on the criminal. There's so many people who are here illegally, who are committing crimes, who have criminal histories. I think we need to focus on those individuals, and they are. But when they start focusing on people who have been citizens for a long time, who have no criminal history, who may have children here who are American citizens, who have people who have worked hard and never benefited from any government program, that's when you start losing, I think, the public support. And so there are many criminals who are here that they need to go after and find, and that should be the primary focus of ICE. And then we'll see what the president does. There are three steps to this always. One was secure the border, which we've done, 0 border crossings in recent months. Number 2 is deport the criminals who are here. And then number 3, figure out what are we going to do with the people who have been here for decades, have never done anything wrong, although they came illegally, but never committed any crimes, and they've worked hard and contribute to our society. That the president needs to figure out next. What's going to be his play there? Because a lot of people do want to see some type of pathway to a legal status with penalties before being able to apply for any type of citizenship. So we'll see what comes. But I think so far we're in that middle section, and this needs to be executed properly.
Nicole, what's your opinion on the New York City mayor's race, which of course is world news right now? But I'd like to hear your opinion.
Yeah, well, look, I'm very concerned that Zoran Mandani could be elected. And if he is elected, I think it'll be devastating for our city. Here's somebody, again, just from a public safety standpoint, he led the defund the police movement. He says that the NYPD is the greatest threat to public safety. He wants to legalize prostitution. He wants to get rid of all jails, doesn't believe there's a purpose for them at all. Then you look at the economic policy, which is straight out of the communist playbook of Karl Marx. Somebody who wants to abolish private property rights. He wants to have government-run supermarkets, which is basically how many loaves of bread will he allow your family to have. He will ration food, rice and beans, and then wanting to seize the means of production. Those things are straight out of the communist playbook of Karl Marx. So you can call himself a Democrat socialist, but if you're quoting Karl Marx, you're really a communist. And so people have to think long and hard about if they want to really go down this path with Zoran Mandani, which will make us less safe, make our city less safe, less affordable, and would really bring upon a type of socialism that drove so many New Yorkers out of their homelands. Think about how many people have fled socialist and communist countries to come to United States. They're here in New York, many of them. Why would they vote for somebody who would implement the policies that they fled? And so I would say, obviously, I've endorsed Curtis Sliwa. I think he's the best candidate. He has decades of experience serving our city, cares about public safety, cares about transit, cares about the homeless and mentally ill. Second choice there, if you were going to do ranked choice voting, the devil you know, the devil you don't know, Andrew Cuomo is at least can manage the city without driving into the ground. Although I don't like many of the policies he implemented, he would be better than Zoran Mandani. But I think people need to look at everything and say, who has the best shot to beat Zoran Mandani? When we're looking at these polls a week before the election, and they have to make an educated decision if their goal truly is to stop this radical socialist communist from becoming the next mayor of the city of New York.
It's amazing, Nicole, after 24 years from 9/11, that the city's even considering voting for this guy, Mandani. It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, he certainly has aligned himself with very radical groups. And the fact that he can't even put out a decent statement following the ceasefire, the peace deal of President Trump relating to the Israel-Hamas war is really shocking. I mean, I think it's to think what he would do to public safety in our city is terrifying. Not to mention the lack of experience. We talked about his bad economic policies. We talked about bad public safety policies. But the lack of experience. This guy's only been a citizen for 7 years. He's 33 years old. He has he does not have any experience of doing anything. Like, he talks a lot, he promises a lot of things he can't do. But he's never actually accomplished anything that would warrant him being the mayor of the largest city, the largest economy in the country, the economic engine of the country. So it's a very scary thing, and I think that we will pay the price. We will pay the price big time if he is elected mayor.
Can you imagine who he'll be appointing to the agencies, the agency heads?
I mean, look, it's a it's a very scary situation. So I just pray that New Yorkers do the right thing. Right, especially those immigrants that fled places where they have socialism and communism. By under no circumstances could I see why they would vote for somebody who wants those very policies here in New York and across the country.
I agree. Nicole, what's your future political outlook?
For me personally,
Do you want to run for president?
no, I'm not running for anything. I wouldn't mind being president of the Sonny and Cher fan club, though. But aside from that, you know what? I'm actually very happy where I am. I feel like I'm doing amazing work, working with President Trump.
You're doing a great job. Really.
And you know, I'm New York City's only Republican voice in Washington. I'm the only person from New York City, by the way, who voted to keep our government open. Everybody else voted to shut it down. So we need one voice in Washington that is the counter view from what Hakeem Jeffries and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Chuck Schumer are saying. And I think it's a very important role to be out there explaining why their policies don't work, why Republican policies are better. And I think we've made a lot of inroads as a result. We've picked up Republican seats in the city council, the state legislature. I used to be the only Republican representing any part of Brooklyn. Now there's 7 of us at the city, state, and of course me at the federal level. And we're picking up seats, and it's good that we're starting to see more people in our city that are giving the alternative viewpoint. We still, unfortunately, are controlled one party, which is why I think there's so many problems that we're seeing, right? When you have one party rule in New York City, New York State, I think that's not good. You need some balance. And so we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to make a difference. And we are stopping some bad policies. And one of the things that right away when I got elected, Jerry Nadler had introduced a bill to pack the Supreme Court. And they asked me, well, why is this bill not good? Right? A local broadcast TV news station. And I said, well, this is what Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela. He packed the Supreme Court from 20 to 32 justices, 40,000 cases in he and Maduro's favor, how they destroyed the richest country in South America. We should never allow that to happen here. And that little soundbite that was in the New York City media market became national, and my colleagues started using it. Before you know it, Nancy Pelosi said, we're not bringing this bill to the floor for a vote. So we killed the bill without even taking a vote. And that's why it's important to have a two-party system in the largest media capital in the country, New York City. And that's what I represent, and I need to stay here and fight for that.
Thank you. Captain?
Well, I think this was a great interview. I know that you're pressed for time, and we want to thank you very much for the hard work that you performed. And I hope you stay in Congress as long as you want to be there in Congress. And I'm sure you'll have a great future ahead of you.
Well, thank you both for having me. I appreciate your service to the city, and certainly your service on September 11th. And I'll be here to keep fighting for the NYPD. I'm very proud to have delivered actually millions of dollars in funding for our NYPD, for vehicles, protective gear, forensic equipment, and I'll keep being that voice of reason in Washington for our city. Thank you very much.
Nicole, thank you. Keep up the great work down there. We need you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Everyone,
Bye-bye.
our guest today, Nicole Malliotakis, Congresswoman, Congressional District number 11. Thank you very much for being here. Folks, if you like what you hear, you could subscribe to Cop Talk at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, God bless you. God bless America. God bless the U.S. military. And God bless the NYPD and law enforcement throughout the world.
And this interview should be on YouTube, so you can see Nicole's pretty face.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. God bless. Be safe.
This is Cop Talk.